I was watching a film the other day called Whisper of the Heart, which is a Studio Ghibli film. It's very windy. um, and uh, there's so many points in it that really connected to me. Um, it was very much based around this concept of perfecting your work or perfecting your craft. But there was a point in it where the girl opens up a book and there is a picture of a man making a violin, and he's in a cell, and his hands are making the violin, but his head is turned towards the window where the light is shining through. And it's kind of a metaphor for the fact that we put ourselves in these self-imposed cells, especially when it comes to creativity. And he was working away at his craft, trying to make this violin perfect while neglecting himself. And, to the point where his head was turning to get sunlight, but his hands were still working. It got me thinking about how shadow work is the same, and introspection and inner excavation. These are really important things to do, but if we're not careful, then we can keep ourselves in a cell where we're constantly polishing ourselves and carving ourselves while life is moving outside the walls. There's only so much introspection that we can do. So once we've gathered the bigger picture of our lives, it's really important to then go outside and play. We need to take a step back and find joy again. Otherwise, it's another form of self-neglect. I've realised that one mistake I've made doing shadow work is the self-neglect aspect, where you're not meeting your vital needs by connecting to your foundation. So, getting enough sunlight, getting enough water, moving enough, being outside. And once we get so hyperfixated on healing, it can create stagnancy, especially when we're not meeting these foundations. And what happens is our chi gets stuck. Our chi gets stagnant because of this lack of movement. Even if we're making so much progress inwards, sometimes you still have this stagnancy around you that makes you feel like nothing's moving forward. And that is just because of the fact that you're not taking care of yourself. The energy we've stirred up has nowhere to go, and it is just an excess of chi that needs moving. The danger is that we're in a culture that's obsessed with self-improvement, and we end up treating ourselves like a broken machine. We become so obsessed with fixing that we lose the essence of who we are. We forget to feel the warmth of life itself. Healing isn't solving a puzzle once and for all. If we treat it that way, then we'll end up finding ourselves in a maze of dead ends. Duality is essential. Compassion for ourselves is essential. And we can learn to hold the aspect of our shadow without losing our light in the process. We can retrieve parts of our soul without turning into robots who are obsessed with perfectionism. Healing is not linear, and nor should it be. At some point, the violin has to leave the workshop to be played imperfectly, but still beautifully. And so do we. We can bring our shadow and light together and create a perfect harmony. I think something that people don't talk about after trauma is how after the trauma, what you have to do is rewrite your brain, essentially. Because we've just come from a place where we don't feel safe in our body. We don't feel safe with other people. And we're scared. We're in fight or flight, or we're in fawn, or we're dissociating. And it's really scary to let people in again after that. So you've got the aspect of healing and doing your own inner work and shadow work and understanding yourself better and meeting your needs again, taking care of yourself, almost treating yourself like a child that needs nourishment because we've been deprived for so long. So you're learning to love yourself, you're learning how to take care of yourself better, you're learning who you are because you've also been masking yourself for so long. But something we don't do enough of at the beginning, especially, is reminding ourselves that we can have safe experiences and good experiences again. And that after this period of healing and introspective work, sometimes we can feel even more scared than what we did in the first place. And that is ultimately because we're not going outside. We're scared to meet people. We're scared of people proving to us that we can't trust them again. But part of healing is going out and meeting safe people again and knowing that genuine people do exist and that you're allowed to have fun and that not every experience you have will be a negative experience. We get very caught up in trying to understand why, I think, and sometimes there isn't really anything to understand. Sometimes people are just bad people. Sometimes people are just traumatized people that like to put their wounds on you instead of dealing with them themselves. And there's nothing to understand about that. I think it's really interesting to understand how trauma works and how the nervous system works. But sometimes we get so lost in asking so many questions to the point where we neglect ourselves in the process as well. And I think sometimes the best thing we can do is just work on meeting our really small needs again, and reminding ourselves that we're safe.